What's up guys, Cam here. Today's video is about logging, so how to use Warcraft logs. Gonna very briefly touch on how to actually log, and then we're gonna spend most of the video talking about how we can use logs to our advantage, how to look at your own logs, how to compare that against others, how to break it down on a second by second basis if you want, and what you should be focusing on to get the most out of your character. Now I'm gonna go ahead and put timestamps just wherever for the different sections on here, just so you don't have to go to the description. Hopefully that helps some people out. Anyway, enjoy the video. Thanks for watching. Super quick intro on how to actually log here. Now you're going to want to go to the Warcraft log site, and then you're going to hit download client here. Now depending on whatever you want to do, you can download the logs uploader or the companion. I did the companion app, so you'll download that. You also need to make an account if you don't already have one. So I already have one, but it should be up here on the top right. So once you have that downloaded and once you have an account, you can open up the Warcraft log companion app basically. Now there are two other things that are important that you'll need to do. Now number one is using a /combat log script macro to actually start your logs. So I'll go ahead and show you what that looks like. If I go here, if I do /combat log, you'll see, and unfortunately, sorry about that, it's a little messed up, but now you can see it's combat is being logged to that text file. You'll want to do this when you start a raid, or at least ensure that it's running. Mine automatically seems to be running when I enter a dungeon. I think it's because I have the companion app, but I would just check this as, before you start your run to make sure that you are actually logging. The other thing you'll need to do is go into settings here, and if you just type ADV or advanced or whatever, you'll need to select this option, which is advanced combat logging, which just, I don't know what it does, but you need to do it. So if you do both those things, then you'll be able to log. That will go straight to essentially wherever wherever it saves on your computer. I don't know where it's going to be, but mine is in the logs. I'm assuming this is where yours would be, and you can hit choose and select the text file that you want to upload, and then just a description or a name, basically personal, public, you can do private, all that. So you can also do like certain bosses as well. I should show you an example, but I don't have anything right now. But anyway, once you fill this out and hit go, you'll be all set. Now that we have logs, let's talk about how we can use those to improve our gameplay. Now you'll want to go to the Warcraft log site again, and I'm taking my cam off for this one just so I can use the full real estate of the screen. But you'll want to go to Season of Discovery, and I'm going to go ahead and use myself as an example here. So if I go to Down to Earth, this is what I'll see. Now just to explain what these numbers mean, essentially this is your percentile rank. So if we look at this purple number here, this is to say that I'm almost in the 92nd percentile, or better than 92% of players for my best performances, and worse than 8%. If you had 100 here, you're essentially the best player. If you have a 10, you're better than 10% of players. So hopefully that makes all these clear. I don't want to say anything about what are good logs. I think really if you're getting blues, that means that you understand your class and you're doing a pretty darn good job, and then it's really just closing whatever gaps you have between the best players, and that can be anything from gear to just not using your cooldowns properly, not having the proper rotation. So I'll go ahead and walk through an example of where I maybe didn't have the best log and compare against another player and see what we can deduce. So let's go ahead and go to Grubbus here. Now you can see, if you click in, you can see all your historical parses on that boss, and you can see also what spec you were. So we'll go ahead and go to my cat. Now I do also want to mention that these are like historical percent, so this parse number won't change. It's locked in at the time that it occurs. So just want to make note of that. So if you click on these numbers, you will get pulled to that specific boss fight for that raid ID. So this is a 51-second Grubbus kill. You can see these are the damage meters for everything. Our mage healer, I don't know if he's actually healing or not. Looks like he might have been, did the most damage, so that's great news. But anyway, on the top here, you can see there's a lot of different options. And in order to filter down just to yourself, you can just click here. There's also a summary tab that has additional information, healing done, damage taken by abilities. You can understand that. You can also find talents for the person you're looking at, or even just yourself, but it doesn't give you the full talent tree, unfortunately. So you could look at this and say, oh well, he's not power shifting, right? So you can deduce some things from this, but not everything. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on myself now. So this is filtering just to what I did, and you can see we have colors of all the different damage sources, and also it has how many casts I did, what the average damage for that cast was, how many I hit, right? So I didn't miss any shreds, my crit percentage, and the DPS that specific item added to me. So this can be very useful comparing just straight up against another player and saying, hey, like, are they using more shreds? Are they using less mangles? Are they whatever, getting more melee hits? Am I missing something, right? This is what that is for. Now you can also go a bit deeper. There's a timeline section, which I think is a bit confusing, but it does show you, at 1 second I use Fairy Fire Feral, right? And then we have, I mangled at just past 2 seconds, right? So you could scroll by here. I don't know why it's not happy. It's probably this ad that's blocking me. Dang ad. But you can scroll through and see exactly what you did and when. So this is nice. But also, I think the events tab may be a little cleaner. This shows just exactly what you did in order, right? Fairy Fire was resisted, melee, mangle, melee, melee, mangle. So I can already see a mistake here probably, right? I did another mangle when I should be using shred, because shred is just doing way more damage per energy. So anyway, just a quick intro right there. But we can also click on these to filter them out. So if I just want to look at just shreds, I can go ahead and see like where my damage from shred was coming from. If I want to just see melee, I can see, I took a dip here, maybe just, miss or something, but you can see where your melee is potentially lacking. So this is all just for me as a reminder. Also, I do want to mention one other thing I found was really cool is there's a replay section on the top right here, and you can see it's 51 seconds, which is the duration of my kill. And you can actually hit play, and I don't know how exactly accurate this is to your location, but you can see this is the boss room of Grubbus, and if you hover over this, you can see this is Grubbus, this is Chomper, and we have our different players here and their XY coordinates. Again, I don't know how accurate this is, but I absolutely love it, and you can do this for other players. You can also see there's the cloud. We've got, I don't know what this is, but we've got a cloud here. So you can actually look at other higher performing players and look at this information as well. You also have, damage done, which you can see basically live meters as it's going on. So that's just a really cool tool that I didn't know existed before I started researching for this video. So let's go back to analyze here, and let's go back to ourself. So we decided, this is my 383 is my DPS. This is, what we have as far as my abilities used, and we can filter that. You can also, real quick, just to point this out, you can look at buffs and see uptime on, for example, Savage Roar for Druids, but if you have, Battle Shout or something like that, you would expect 100, or you would want 100% uptime. You can see I had a little bit of a miss here with only 94%, so, that may not be the worst thing, but if this were 75%, right, you'd be having a bad time. So let's now talk about how you can use this to improve. Now I'm going to go ahead and just open up a new tab here. So for this new tab, we're going to go to Season of Discovery. I'm going to go to Raids, and you can select any boss you want, or you can click here and select the whole Gnomer. Since we're looking at Grubbus, I'm going to go into Grubbus, and I'm going to go for classes, and I'm going to look at Druids, specifically Feral Cat Druids. Now, keep in mind for the number one players, a lot of it has to do with kill speeds and just getting crazy buffs going and things like that. So, you see 910, that's what, almost 3 times the damage that I dealt. So crazy optimization here. You can see their kill was 26 seconds versus our 51. So that makes a lot of sense. Now I do kind of tend to lean towards trying to select some of the longer kill times, and I don't think this is a requirement by any means, but it can give you a better idea of what your kills can look like. Unless your kills are 25 seconds, right? All these DPSs, I would say, are relatively comparable. When you're talking 900 DPS, you're talking about one crit, one miss, something along those lines. I'm gonna go ahead and select from this guy just because he's got a 36-second kill, and that will take us directly to his page. So you can see he got a 99 parse. He did 853 DPS, and if we go back to me, you can see I did 383, so not even close. So the first thing we can kind of start here is you can click on this guy, right? You can see specifically what he did. So at a top level, we can see that he did 17 shreds, 65 melee, 2 rips, 2 rakes, and 1 mangle. If we go to mine, we can see that I did 3 less shreds, and it was about 44% of my damage. His was 47. And again, it's important to note, think about the ratios here. Depending on gear and buffs, it will change. Like for example, my melee is 30%, his is almost 40%, and we'll get into why that is here in a second. But if we look at, I've casted 5 mangles in a fight where you really only need 1. He only used 1 mangle, so proper, and then he did 2 rakes and 2 rips. So now that we have a summary of the aggregate abilities used, we can say basically right off the bat that I used 4 additional mangles than I needed to. But I want to focus on a couple of useful tips, I think, for you. So number 1, we have an opener that you're going to want to understand. Now this will depend on your class, but for me that usually entails Fairy Fire Feral. Then you're going to want to put up Mangle. Then you're going to want to get Savage Roar, and then you start kind of cycling through that, right? And so I'm going to go ahead and look at his opener, which I would suggest that you use this cast tab over here. So if I go into casts and then I hit events, I can see everything he did and the time he did it. And this also includes just buffs as well. So, or at least buffs that he casts, I think is the limiter there. But basically what we have from him is Fairy Fire Feral, Mangle, Savage Roar. This is good usage. You want to be Savage Roaring right off the bat into a Rake, and then we see him pop all his cooldowns. So we see Tiger's Fury to give him 60% energy, extra damage, Berserk making all his abilities cost half, and then a 20% melee attack speed for 10%. And then lastly, we have Automatic Crowd Pummeler, ACP, which is that weapon, which increases your attack speed by 50%. So he just gets an absolute ton of buffs rolling with Berserk. He spams Shred, gets his rip off at 5 combo points, spam Shred. You can see this is power shifting. So if you want to know when people are power shifting in the fight, when you maybe should be, you can use this as well. He's got a mana pot into a power shift, so this guy's really pumping, and just a lot of shreds, right? So if we go to mine, we're going to understand pretty quickly what I'm doing wrong. So if I go to casts and events, we've got Fairy Fire Feral, this is fine. We've got Mangle, Savage Roar, Mangle. This should not be a Mangle, right? We've already talked about this. And if we look at his, this is instead a Rake. Now, what we talked about is he's immediately popping all his buffs. And for me, I'm popping Bloodbark Cleave, which is the STV weapon active, and Berserk. That's all well and good, but what I'm missing here is Tiger's Fury. Now, right now I don't know if this was on cooldown from the trash mobs and I just misused it, or I, was talking on Discord, not paying attention. Whatever, right? That's not important. What's important is that if we're trying to mimic what this guy did, this should be moved up into this group. Now, we're obviously missing the Helm buff and the haste from ACP. And by the way, these two are why that auto attack damage was a lot higher from him, because he's got so much additional attack speed. So let's see what I do after I get my buffs rolling. So I get my buffs rolling, I'm casting Shred. This is just so he actually resisted this Fairy Fire Feral, which you can see on this, right? So he resisted, which is why I end up casting it again so quickly. So I cast that again. We're shredding. I also put my 5-point rip on, shred, Tiger's Fury, shred. We're Savage Roaring again, which it would have, fallen off at this point. We're 21 seconds in, or about to fall off, so that's pretty good. And then this Mangle's a mistake. I should be saving energy for a Shred. And then because this fairy fire landed, I probably don't need these extras. I think I was just full on energy because I'm not a power shift build. So this is probably where you would basically see a power shift instead. So we've got our shred, and then we're shredding again another bad mangle and another rip, and then shred, Tiger's Fury, shred. So we're seeing very similar things, but the two things that we're noticing is that I'm doing more mangles than I need to. I'm probably using Fairy Fire Feral more than I need to. We're learning that having additional energy with power shifting is probably a good thing for DPS. And also, I misstacked all my buffs. Tiger's Fury should be here. And then ideally, I would have the 50% haste from Automatic Crowd Pummeler, which I did pick up, by the way, so I'll have that for the next run. But that would also go here. So already from that short review, we can tell I made a few mistakes. Number one is I'm using too many mangles. We had 1 mangle from him, 5 from me. No need to do that in a 1-minute fight. Just locked in from phase 1. We need to use less fairy fires. I used 1, it got resisted. The second one made a lot of sense, but I probably didn't need the third or the fourth. But I believe I was just feeling energy because I'm not power shifting. But that also brings me to my next point, in that power shifting is good for your solo DPS is what we're understanding, right? And especially, just kind of an aside, the shorter the fight is, the better off power shifting is, right? Because you're converting your mana into energy. So as long as you still have mana, aka a short fight, you can essentially generate unlimited energy, which is fantastic. And then we also decided that I need to be using Tiger's Fury with my other cooldowns, i.e. Berserk, because Berserk is giving us that 50% reduction on abilities, so we're spamming Shred, so I should be getting Tiger's Fury in with that to get the additional 15% damage on those shreds. The last piece, which is, I'm not really that concerned about, is the haste buff that he had, both from the helmet and the weapon. You can just see immediately that that's going to cause a gap between us, and if it's an item you can obtain, then you can make the decision to go hunt that and get that item for yourself. So that's just my quick review, and there's a lot more you can do with logs, and I would encourage anyone who knows a lot about logs and maybe some things that I missed in here to comment below some tips that they have so that other people can also use those. And that brings us to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, I'd encourage you to please subscribe, leave a like, comment. Anything helps a ton, both the channel and myself. I really appreciate it. Also, I want to give a big shout out to anyone who's a new subscriber, which is everyone basically. I think we're at about 570 now. Love to see the community grow. Let's all just remember to be respectful towards each other in the comments. I just want this to be a positive space for everyone. So that's it for me. Have a good one. Cam out.